Can't you meet, though, with Entergy on March 30th or 31st?
Sure.
What was that meeting about?
They requested a meeting with me, and I accepted, as I would with almost anyone that's producing power in Vermont, or anyone, I should say. And at that meeting, they basically indicated that they wouldn't be suing the state, that they would be instead just continuing to operate the plant after 2012. Obviously, they've changed their mind.
What do you think this is a battle over states' rights?
No, I don't think it is. I think this is an example of a company that doesn't want to follow the laws and is trying desperately to avoid the laws. And I just don't think that's a very prudent legal course, and it's not a very good business course. You know, when they said that they were just going to run the plant without a certificate of public good from the Public Service Board, there was general belief that they were going to do that. Apparently Wayne Leonard made reference to it in a call to stockholders recently. My reaction was, you know, I don't know how a company that does business in lots of states can just run a plant, break the law, and have the confidence either on Wall Street or the other states that this company would do the same thing in those states. Well, if I were in those states right now, I'd be asking this question. Do I want a company running in my states who agrees to follow the law, supports the law that gets signed into law by the governor, and then wants to break that law? So, you know, as I mentioned before, Entergy Louisiana doesn't do business the way we do business.
So can you comment on that? I mean, it seems that Vermont stands alone in its claiming authority over this plant. Ultimately, isn't this about whether the state has the control to say no to another 20 years of Vermont Yankee?
Well, you can only prevail if Vermont law is upheld. But this is a case of potentially national significance. I mean, not only will the nuclear power industry be watching this case closely, but an awful lot of states and state legislatures will be watching this case very closely to see whether this is a situation where Vermont got ahead of other states, but was that a mistake, or was that a very good public policy decision by the Vermont legislature, which other states might well seek to emulate going forward?
Has this point been litigated before, this idea of who truly holds the cards in relicensing, feds or state?
There are any number of cases that relate to federal power in this area of the law, but not any cases directly on point that would be controlling in this litigation.
What will your argument be in that case? Why does Vermont have this power?
I'm going to make the arguments in federal court in Vermont. The nature of the arguments I've sort of described here, but the chapter and verse, whether it's case law or otherwise, and specific statements, agreements, other evidence, we'll present in court.
Not chapter and law, but they're claiming this 1983 Supreme Court decision said that only the federal government has that authority.
We will be offering case law in support of our positions.
When will they file a response?
I just want to say a word to Terry on the question just raised. I do think it's worth mentioning that in my conversations that myself and Senator Leahy, Senator Sanders, and Congressman Welch had with the chair of the NRC, it has been made clear that the NRC does not believe that Vermont doesn't have authority over the future of our nuclear power plant. They do not intend to file suit. They do not intend to join the case. They do not intend to stand in the way of the clear right of the state of Vermont to determine our future.
Have you been careful to avoid invoking the safety issue? Because this complaint talks about the state trying to use safety as a lever against relicensing.
Vermont has no jurisdiction over safety. That is the NRC's purview. And we have jurisdiction over a number of areas. Safety isn't one of them. Therefore, I don't talk about safety. It's not my concern. It's the concern of the NRC.
Bill, for several months you've been trying to decide whether you believe Entergy executives didn't tell the truth. Can you update us on what you have found, and will the results of your probe have any bearing on this federal case?
We are continuing to take a look at the issue of whether any of Vermont's criminal criminal laws were violated by Entergy personnel and giving testimony about the existence of, or lack of existence of underground piping carrying radionuclides. It would not be proper for us to be intermingling a civil issue, which this is, with the criminal issue. We are continuing to work on the criminal investigation. I can assure you and everyone that we are not using the same personnel to look at the criminal side of the equation from those who will be working on this matter. We would hope by later in the spring to have reached a decision on the criminal issue.
Are you hired, is there going to be, are there outside counsel, outside lawyers working on this preemption case?
Thus far, we've been doing it internally to our office. We have several members of the team pulled off other assignments to work on this. We've also been working closely with attorneys from the Department of Public Service. We have met with the governor in anticipation of the lawsuit being filed and received his strong assurances that whatever resources we need to fight this fight effectively, to please ask, and we will do so if and when we need outside resources to assist us.
So what will it cost if this goes on and on?
Well, that's obviously impossible to project. We would prefer that Entergy follow the laws of the state of Vermont and not force us to spend precious taxpayer dollars defending a suit against Vermont laws that both they and we agreed to and they and we understand. But as I mentioned, Entergy Louisiana doesn't do business the way we do business in Vermont.
How many lawyers internally are on the case?
Right now, we have 3 from my office who have been working pretty much full-time for weeks and weeks. We have had meetings as recently as last week, quite apart from the ones we've had already today, talking about the timing of issues and bringing more help to bear. We have a case next week being argued in the U.S. Supreme Court, and so we have some very able legal horsepower that we would be able, if necessary, to move over onto this case in the immediate future. But it's a formidable team, and as I said, Commissioner Miller and her staff have been helpful to us. They have some very able lawyers in that department also.
Why do you think Entergy went ahead with the lawsuit when they told you a few weeks ago that they could just keep operating the plant? I mean, is that an indication that the state has a shot at this, or what?
The state definitely has a shot at this. I can't let that one go by. Sorry, go.
Thank you. The state definitely has a shot at this. You can't let that one go by without responding. You know, if I could predict what Entergy Louisiana was going to do and why they do it, I probably would give up my day job. The fact of the matter is, this is a company that doesn't do things the way we do in Vermont. In Vermont, we tell the truth. In Vermont, we follow the laws. In Vermont, if we support a law, we certainly follow the law. Say the press clips of Entergy supporting the law that Governor Douglas signed, that they're now suggesting it isn't legal. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, team. You know, we've all become, over the years, a bit jaded by Entergy Louisiana's behavior, you know. Say under oath that pipes don't exist, the pipe's leaking. Now we got tritium and other nuclear substances in the ground out of Winter County. Say under oath that, you know, they're going to follow Vermont laws. They don't. They claim that water cooling towers, it was just a little minor mishap. Then someone leaks a photograph of these towers gushing water and falling out all over the place. That, you know, you wouldn't treat your old lawnmower that way. They suddenly admit that, oh, maybe it was a little more serious than what they suggested. I mean, the list goes on and on. The fact of the matter is, Vermonters, I suspect, share my disappointment that a company who said they would follow our laws, who supported the laws when they got signed by the governor who supported the plan, now are asking us to spend taxpayer dollars because they don't like the outcome of the decisions that were made by Vermonters. Let's be honest about this. That's what's going on here, team. Entergy Louisiana doesn't like the little state of Vermont telling them how to do things in Louisiana. They do not care about Vermonters. They care about their stockholders. They care about their bottom line. They care about running an old, aging, leaky plant beyond its designed life. These are big issues, and we should all share our concern that we have a company like that operating in Vermont.
Bill, are the jobs at Yankee and the power rate that they've offered most recently, which utilities you think is pretty attractive, are those material to this case at hand?
That's a question for the governor.
The legal case.
I'm sorry?
The legal, are those material to your legal?
It doesn't immediately come to mind to me that they're material. We'll see what is in the court filings. The issue for us is actually quite simple. Vermont law is clear. They acknowledged in very approving ways Vermont law. They signed agreements to abide by Vermont law, and they're seeking to operate contrary to Vermont law and contrary to their own agreements and contrary to their own public statements. That's what seems to me to be the heart and soul of this lawsuit, and that's what we're going to suggest at the district court level and beyond if necessary.
So do you have a counterclaim here? You know, basically that they want to keep operating past 2012 and therefore we sue them to stop that from happening?
Well, we saw the press release from Entergy before we saw the complaint, which is somewhat unusual. So we're still digesting the complaint. What we think will happen actually is that Entergy will file another document or some other documents this week on the injunctive relief. We think the federal judge who takes the case will call everybody in for a scheduling conference to discuss the scheduling of who files what when and what court time is necessary. So we'll have a better idea and answer to that question and others on timing and such probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
We have time for one more.
I just want to make the point on the question of the power rates. I just want to point out that CV, Greenmount Power, and other utilities have responsibly been signing up competitive power agreements to replace our power at BY. And I think one of the best kept secrets in Vermont might be there is more electricity on the grid right now than Vermont and other New England states can buy. We are in a bit of a buyer's market. We're being offered great power deals. One was signed recently by Hydro-Quebec that we can be extraordinarily proud of. There are others in the pipelines that are being discussed. I can tell you that we will have a very competitive power rate in Vermont, and that is something we should all be celebrating. We do not need Vermont Yankee to have reliable, affordable power.
That HQ deal, though, is almost a penny more than Entergy was offering.
Well, I would actually disagree with that. Don't forget, Entergy's offer includes the $1 billion in their own words that they owed us in a strike price over 10 years. You divide $1 billion into that offer that they made for a little bit of power they wanted to sell us, and I would argue that the competitiveness of it is not quite as clear as Entergy might wish.